For more than 200 years, the rock carvings scattered across the granite landscapes of Bohuslän, on Sweden's western coast, have fascinated archaeologists, historians, and curious visitors alike. Ships with towering prows, warriors carrying weapons, animals, sun symbols, and enigmatic human figures are etched into the stone as if frozen in mid-ritual. These images, created during the Nordic Bronze Age between roughly 1700 and 500 BCE, have been studied, catalogued, debated, and interpreted endlessly. Yet despite all this attention, one fundamental question lingered in the background for generations. Who, exactly, made these carvings, and why did they matter so much to Bronze Age society? A doctoral dissertation at the University of Gothenburg by Julian Moiano di Carlo takes this question seriously and turns the focus away from the images themselves to the people behind them. Rather than treating rock art as anonymous expressions of a collective culture, the research proposes that these carvings were the work of socially influential specialists whose role went far beyond artistic expression. They were not passive decorators of stone, but active agents in shaping belief systems, power structures, and social memory in Nordic Bronze Age communities. What emerges from this research is a striking re-evaluation of rock art, not as background noise of prehistory, but as a deliberate and controlled medium wielded by individuals who understood its power. A landscape that speaks Bohuslän is one of the richest rock art regions in Europe. Thousands of carved panels are distributed across hillsides, near ancient shorelines, and along routes that once connected settlements, ritual spaces, and maritime pathways. Importantly, many of these carvings were created in locations that were highly visible during the Bronze Age but are less obvious today due to changes in sea levels and vegetation. This visibility is key. Rock art was not hidden. It was meant to be seen, approached, revisited, and remembered. For a long time, scholars assumed that these images were communal expressions, perhaps made by many members of society over generations. Others suggested they were the spontaneous creations of farmers, sailors, or warriors recording important events. But such explanations struggle to account for the consistency of motifs, techniques, placement, and symbolism across centuries. Moiano di Carlo's work challenges the idea of randomness or purely communal authorship. Instead, it argues for intentionality, specialization, and social authority. The makers behind the marks creating rock art during the Bronze Age was not a casual activity. Carving into hard granite required time, skill, tools, and physical endurance. The images were not scratched hastily but carefully pecked and polished, often with remarkable precision and repetition of style. This level of expertise suggests that not everyone could, or was allowed to, create these images. The dissertation proposes that the individuals who made the carvings were specialists with a distinct social role. They likely possessed knowledge that was both technical and symbolic: how to carve stone effectively, where to place images in the landscape, and which motifs carried meaning within Bronze Age cosmology. These were not simply artists in the modern sense. They were mediators between worlds, between the human community, the spiritual realm, and the ancestral past. Rock art as social technology. One of the most powerful ideas in the research is that rock art functioned as a form of social technology. In societies without writing, durable images carved into stone became tools for preserving and transmitting knowledge across generations. Ships, for example, are among the most common motifs in Nordic Bronze Age rock art. These vessels are often oversized, exaggerated, and ritualized in forms. Rather than being literal depictions of everyday boats, they likely symbolize journeys, of the sun, of ancestors, of elites, or of the soul itself. By carving such images into permanent surfaces, the rock art makers anchored shared stories and beliefs to specific places. These sites became reference points for ceremonies, seasonal gatherings, and the reinforcement of social hierarchies. The people who controlled this process effectively controlled how the community remembered its past and understood its place in the cosmos. Authority without thrones. The Bronze Age societies of Scandinavia did not leave behind palaces, written laws, or royal inscriptions. Power was exercised differently, through ritual, display, and control of symbolic knowledge. Moiano di Carlo's research suggests that rock art creators occupied a position of symbolic authority. They may not have ruled through force, but through meaning. By deciding which stories were carved, which figures were emphasized, and which locations were marked as significant, these individuals shaped the ideological framework of their society. They reinforced ideas about masculinity, warfare, fertility, seafaring, and divine order. In this sense, rock art was not neutral decoration. It was a political act. Repetition as reinforcement. One striking feature of Nordic Bronze Age rock art is its repetition. The same motifs appear again and again across vast areas and long time spans. This repetition is not a sign of creative stagnation, but of social reinforcement. Repeated imagery stabilized cultural narratives. It told people, generation after generation, this is who we are. This is how the world works. The dissertation argues that rock art specialists likely followed established conventions and traditions, possibly passed down through apprenticeship. This would explain the remarkable continuity in style and symbolism, even as societies evolved. Such continuity suggests institutionalized roles rather than isolated individuals acting independently. Carving identity into stone rock art also played a role in shaping social identity. Many panels depict armed figures, processions, or scenes that emphasize hierarchy and coordination. These images may have reflected elite ideals, warriors, leaders, ritual participants, rather than everyday life. By presenting idealized figures and actions, the carvings communicated social norms, who mattered, what behaviors were valued, and how power was visually represented. Importantly, the act of carving itself may have been part of ritual performances. The sound of stone being struck, the physical effort involved, and the gradual emergence of images would have been powerful sensory experiences for those present. Rock art was not only something to look at, it was something to witness being made. Memory made permanent. Unlike wood, cloth, or spoken words, stone endures. The choice to carve into bedrock ensured that these images would outlast individual lifetimes. This permanence gave rock art a special status as a medium of collective memory. Even as people changed, the carvings remained, connecting the living to ancestors they never met. The individuals who created these images were, in effect, shaping how future generations would understand their past. That ability, to define memory, is one of the most subtle and enduring forms of power. Rethinking Bronze Age society by shifting attention from images to imagemakers, Moiano di Carlo's dissertation invites a broader rethinking of Nordic Bronze Age society. It suggests a world where power was distributed through ritual expertise, symbolic control, and mastery of enduring media. These societies were not simple or egalitarian. They were complex, layered, and deeply invested in maintaining social order through shared meaning. Rock art specialists were not marginal figures. They stood at the intersection of belief, authority, and communication. The hands that still speak today, the rock carvings of Bohuslän, are protected heritage sites, admired for their beauty and mystery. But beneath their weathered surfaces lies a deeper story, not just of what Bronze Age people believed, but of who had the power to make those beliefs visible. The hands that carved ships, warriors, and symbols into stone were shaping more than images. They were shaping society itself. And though their names are lost, their influence remains etched into the landscape, silent, enduring, and still speaking across 3,000 years of history.